Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into my official college football week number 11 recap where I go through all of the ranked games and then take a look at the final FPI rankings for this week, the analytical rankings. But let's kick it off. You can see Ohio State crushing Michigan State. And this was a little bit of a throwback for the Buckeyes. This was not a competitive game. Michigan State had no chance from the start. Ohio State had, 370 yards of total offense in the first half. Kyle McCord maybe settling in. It was against a really bad team in Michigan State, but Ohio State right now, that was a very nice showing, especially by Kyle McCord. Marvin Harrison Jr. also seemingly in the mix for the Heisman, the 3 touchdowns. Ohio State really doesn't try in the second half. They cover the spread. They win 38-3 really easily. They outgain Michigan State by about 400 yards. Next, you do have Georgia beating Ole Miss. Now, here is the storyline. A lot of people clamoring for Georgia to pass Ohio State. I could really see it either way, but Georgia, that's a very impressive win. The offense for Georgia right now, it's no joke. 52 points against a top 10 team in Ole Miss, who I'm sure will drop, but still, Georgia is starting to build a really nice resume, considering they also beat Missouri last week. We just saw what Missouri did to Tennessee. Now Georgia faces Tennessee. They possibly will be the number 1 team in the country, but either way, them and Ohio State are 1-2. You do have Michigan beating Penn State, so a very impressive win on the road for Michigan without Harbaugh. Kind of a strange thing that happened at the end of the game with their interim head coach, Sharon Moore. They interviewed him at the end of the game, and they were like, "Why did you cheat?" And he started bawling, crying. He was like, "I'm so sorry. We didn't mean to cheat. I just love Jim Harbaugh." And he started swearing. It was very strange. But Michigan does win. Penn State, there's just no offensive playmakers. It seems like they're going in slow motion right now. They're going to drop a little bit. Their ceiling is a 2-loss team. I feel like they're never right now. Ohio State and Michigan are just on another level than them. But Michigan, they're solidly the number 3 team in the country. That was their first big win. They end up winning. Kind of weird, though. J.J. McCarthy, supposedly in the Heisman race, doesn't attempt a pass in the second half. Come on. And then you do have Florida State beating Miami by 7 only. This Florida State team reminds me a lot of the 2014 Jameis Winston team, where they barely beat all these bad teams and then got crushed in the playoff. I'm really concerned about Florida State, honestly. They've had several games like this now. They do get the win, but, you're 15-point favorites. You win by 7. It's a close game at half. I don't know. I guess we'll see with Florida State. It does seem like they're going to enter the playoff unbeaten, though. Washington beats Utah by 7. They somehow don't cover the 9.5-point spread because the Washington defender drops the ball 2 yards before going into the end zone. Are you kidding me? Nobody scored in the fourth quarter, but Washington, a lot of people clamoring for them to move in front of FSU. I think that's probably going to happen considering they do have a good resume. Oregon beats USC in a very late game. You can see USC scoring a lot in the fourth quarter. Oregon pretty much controlling this entire way. Bo Nix very likely first right now in terms of Heisman odds. 4 passing touchdowns, 400 yards. He has the stats right now. A lot of people like Oregon. They didn't cover the spread, but again, they were in control of that game heading into the fourth quarter. Texas barely beats TCU. This was an upset pick of mine that almost came true. TCU with a huge fourth quarter. Texas right now, they're still in a win and in spot. If they win out, they're in because they beat Alabama on the road. But they're a team that I do expect to drop a game possibly within these next 2 weeks, and then the Big 12 would have 0 playoff teams. Alabama beats Kentucky. They're very impressive right now. Alabama looks really good. If they win out, I really don't see a way they don't get in. They have a good resume. They would beat Georgia in the SEC championship. I don't know if that's going to happen, but if they do, they would certainly be in. Oregon State with a 60-burger. Wow. Look at Oregon State scoring 14, 20, 21 points in the first 3 quarters. That's very impressive. That's a solid team. They crush Stanford. They easily cover a 20-plus point spread there. They are trending right now. They've got 2 very tough games coming up. Imagine if they win those. You do have Missouri crushing Tennessee. Well, there goes Tennessee. They're 3-3 now in the SEC. They lose 36-7. Solid win for Missouri. They've got that, running back. He had like 250 total yards. Very impressive. UCF beats Oklahoma State 45-3. And yeah, this is what can happen in college football. Oklahoma State, they were not impressive early in the season. They went on a little run. UCF coming into this game was sitting 3-point favorites. It's really not an upset. I had UCF winning this game outright, and they were not healthy earlier in the season. That's why they dropped a few games. Now they're back. They're 5-5. And they crush an Oklahoma State team who kind of had a nice little Cinderella run, but let's be honest, they're not that good. Texas Tech beats Kansas, very low scoring game. Kansas dealing with too many injuries. The quarterback Daniels, I don't know what happened. I don't know, maybe he'll try and redshirt. It's just a strange situation, but Texas Tech, remember, that's a Texas Tech team that probably should have beaten Oregon in week 2. That is not a terrible team. Oklahoma crushes West Virginia. They get back on track. They score 14 or more points in every single quarter. A lot of higher scoring games here. They almost drop a 60-burger. Dylan Gabriel, 8 total touchdowns. Yes, 8 total touchdowns. What did he have? 5 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns. LSU beats Florida. Here's another thing. Jaden Daniels going crazy. Almost has 300 rushing yards, 300 passing yards. He's going for the Heisman. Personally, there's no way I would give him the Heisman. Where's his signature win? Right, every big game LSU has been in, they've lost. They already have 3 losses. Come on. It's got to be between Bo Nix, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Michael Penix Jr. at this point for the Heisman. You're not giving somebody with 3 losses and no key wins a Heisman. Let's be honest. Arizona beats Colorado 34-31. Good for Arizona. You know, Colorado's a feisty team. They've got some talent. Arizona ranked number 21. Yes, they don't cover the spread, but they get the win. They come back in the fourth quarter 34-31. Iowa beats Rutgers. Somehow Iowa is ranked. I don't really understand it. I guess you can say, well, they're 8-2. Their offense is just so horrific. Iowa right now trying to make the Big Ten championship. I don't think they'll make it. I think, you know, maybe a team like Northwestern has a Cinderella run at the end of the season and makes the Big Ten championship. Could you imagine Northwestern, after firing Pat Fitzgerald, everyone thought they would go 0-12? Imagine if they make the Big Ten championship. But Iowa, another under hits. The over-under in this game was 27.5 or something. And the under still hits. Of course it does. Tulane beats Tulsa. I'm just done with Tulane. This is 4 straight weeks now with Tulane. They've come nowhere close to covering the spread. They are disqualified from making a New Year's Six Bowl. I'm so done. Next, you've got North Carolina. North Carolina, this is a real red flag for them. How do you allow 45 points to Duke? You know, Riley Leonard injured. They get the win. You know, it's a rivalry game. They're 8-2. It is crazy. North Carolina's 8-2 and Iowa's 8-2, but Iowa's ranked in front of them. Come on. I mean, that's disrespectful to North Carolina, but they do get the win. And then Kansas State. Kansas State is a top 20 football team. Kansas State is really good. They win 59-25. Another high-scoring game there. That's a really nice analytical team. All right, let's move on to the FPI. So this is pretty funny. Finally, Michigan passes Ohio State. And it's like, this is finally the week where I'm starting to think, okay, Ohio State might be legit because of what Kyle McCord did. But you can see Michigan slightly in front of the Buckeyes. They're sitting at number 1. I mean, I guess I can understand it. Although Michigan, I mean, if you're going to run like 35 straight times, I really can't respect that. I'm sorry. You can't be, you know, you didn't attempt to pass in the second half. That's like Iowa type offense. Ohio State, McCord looking a little bit better. It was against a bad team. I understand it was at home. He didn't get pressured at all. But McCord's ball placement was very impressive. They're at number 2. And then there's a big gap. You can see Oregon about 2.5 points behind at number 3. Oregon still with not a great resume, but certainly if Oregon wins out, you know, at 9-1, they're going to be very tough to leave out. Alabama at number 4. Alabama, they win out. They're going to be in. Penn State, they're done. You know, they're 8-2 right now. Obviously, the analytics aren't going to crush them because they did lose to Michigan and it was not a blowout. Georgia at number 6. Obviously, Georgia, you know, should be top 2 at this point. The analytics have them ranked that low because early in the season they really did struggle. Oklahoma sitting at number 7. They should be lower than number 7, but I do think Oklahoma's underrated. FSU at number 8. I think that's right for FSU. FSU is not blowing teams out. It is what it is. Texas at number 9. I mean, I think Texas should be up a few spots. How about Kansas State at number 10? Kansas State's a really quality football team, I agree. LSU sitting at number 11. I'd have them lower just because of their defense. Notre Dame, I'd have them a bit lower at number 12. Washington sitting at number 13. Certainly, Washington has a resume to be a top 4 team right now. Their analytics are not great, but their strength of record is really good. A&M sitting at number 14. I mean, A&M won in a blowout, and then they fired Jimbo Fisher. Pretty funny. Ole Miss down 2 spots at number 15, still at 8-2 in terms of their record. Tennessee down to number 16. I would drop Tennessee lower than that. USC at number 17. They have 4 losses now, USC, and they only have 1 game left, USC does. Oregon State at number 18. They're looking really good right now. Missouri up 5 spots to number 19. So obviously that's funny that Missouri's still behind Tennessee, but it is just a 1-game sample. Clemson sitting at number 20. Clemson crushed Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech is not bad, so that was a good win for Clemson. Utah still at number 21. I mean, that's fine. Utah lost to Washington on the road. No shame in that. Louisville down 4 spots. Certainly, that's understandable. People, they keep talking about Louisville. This team almost lost to Virginia on that Thursday night game. Yeah. SMU at 23. I think SMU should be ranked, honestly. North Carolina at 24. Auburn. Come on, guys. Auburn should not be at number 25. I don't know. That's that SEC crap, though. Miami down 1 spot to number 26. And then there's UCF 5-5 up to number 27, up 10 spots because of the dominant win that they had. TCU at 4-6 at 29. Arizona below TCU. I mean, honestly, I understand people are going to be angry about that, but that's just the analytical ranking in terms of that. So, guys, overall, just looking at this, you do have Michigan and Ohio State, the final 2 contenders right now for the Big Ten. They both have a chance to make the playoff, depending on who loses. Ohio State with a better if Ohio State loses, they're in a better position than Michigan would be if they lose, because Ohio State has a better non-conference schedule and strength of schedule overall. Oregon is sitting in a really good spot right now. Alabama and Georgia. There is a death sentence if Alabama beats Georgia, because then you're talking about 2 SEC teams making it. You do also have Texas sitting in if they win out, they're in. FSU, if they win out, they're in. Those are the scenarios we're looking at right now. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on X. Link to that's always in the description.